We're barely a few weeks into spring training, and I'm already convinced this Blue Jays lineup could be something genuinely scary. Not just good, I mean the kind of lineup that keeps opposing pitchers up at night. And I want to break down exactly why, because there are 5 guys in this roster right now who could each individually carry a game, and when you put them together, it becomes a completely different conversation. Let's start with the guy who nobody outside of Toronto really knew about until this offseason, Kazuma Okamoto. When the Blue Jays made this signing, a lot of casual fans were asking why. And honestly, if you've been watching him in camp, you already know the answer. David Popkins, the hitting coach, has been pretty patient with him early on, just observing, learning his tendencies, understanding how he works. And what he's seeing is a hitter who has genuine feel for the game. The ability to adjust mid-at-bat, the ability to hit off his lead leg and still generate real power, a deliberate routine that tells you this guy has been doing this his whole life. There's always a transition period when you come from NPB to the majors. The timing is different, the pitchers are different, the whole environment is different. But the foundation is already there. And Popkins has said publicly that he loves the way Okamoto works. When a hitting coach, who's helped build one of the best offensive identities in baseball, says he loves how a new guy works, that's not nothing. That's actually a huge deal. Now think about what Okamoto walking into a lineup that already has Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in it means, because we need to talk about Vladdy, and specifically what happened to him in the postseason last year. 18 playoff games, 8 home runs, an OPS over 1.280. At some point during that run, it stopped being impressive and started being something closer to historic. That version of Guerrero, loose, confident, locked in, is the version that shows up when everything around him is clicking. And the early reports from Dunedin this spring suggest that mentality hasn't gone anywhere. He's laughing, he's joking around with teammates, he's carrying an energy in the clubhouse that Popkins described as contagious. And the thing about Vladdy that makes him different from almost every other elite hitter in baseball is that even when something's slightly off, there's no spiral, there's no visible panic. He just keeps grinding, keeps trusting his process, and then one swing happens, and suddenly you remember who you're dealing with. That's a rare quality. Most hitters, even great ones, go through stretches where the doubt creeps in. With Guerrero, it genuinely seems like that switch never flips. He knows what he's capable of at any given moment. That kind of self-awareness at the plate is almost as valuable as the physical tools themselves. George Springer is a completely different story, and honestly, it might be the most interesting one in this entire lineup when you zoom out and look at the full picture. A year ago, spring training was a disaster for him. A .08 batting average in camp. Nothing was working. The career narrative was starting to take a turn toward decline, and people who had watched him for years in Houston started wondering if the injuries had finally caught up with him. Then the regular season started and something shifted. Then it kept shifting. And by the time the postseason arrived, Springer looked like one of the best hitters on the entire team. He's entering the final year of that massive contract now, which for some players creates pressure. But Popkins sees it differently. He's not talking about a guy with something to prove. He's talking about a guy with belief, real, earned, hard-won belief that he can still do this at the highest level. There's a difference between a veteran who looks like they're chasing something and a veteran who looks like they know exactly who they are. Springer right now looks like the second version. He's launching balls in batting practice. He knows it's one swing away at any point. That mindset going into a final contract year could produce something really special. Addison Barger might be the name that casual fans are still sleeping on a little, which is honestly baffling at this point. His postseason numbers were not a fluke, a .367 average, an OPS over 1.020, and what made it even more impressive was the variety. He wasn't just doing one thing well, he was making adjustments every single at-bat. Teams would pitch around him and he'd go the other way. They'd attack him and he'd hurt them. There was a completeness to his game in October that you rarely see from a player who had only just finished his first full major league season. Popkins was tough on him about stamina and endurance during the year, because those things matter. A player can have all the talent in the world and still fall apart down the stretch because their body hasn't been through a full grind before. Barger went through it, came out the other side, and now he enters year 2 with that experience in his body. That's not something you can teach. You just have to survive it once. And then there's Jesús Sánchez. This one might actually have the highest ceiling of any individual storyline on the team. He came over from Houston with tools that made evaluators drool: real power, athleticism, the physical profile of a middle-of-the-order bat. But something about his time with the Astros didn't translate. Popkins has been pretty clear about why. The development path he was on there shifted too far toward patching weaknesses and away from building on his actual strengths. And when you take a hitter and spend all your energy on what he can't do well yet, you sometimes end up dimming what he already does brilliantly. Toronto's approach has been the opposite from day one. Start with your strengths. Build your identity around what you already do well, then expand from there. Sánchez has had some impressive days in camp already. The rhythm is coming back. The swing looks natural again. And when a physically gifted hitter rediscovers his rhythm after a period of mechanical confusion, the results can come fast. This lineup has an identity now. That's rarer than it sounds.